In 1978, I killed for the first time. She was an 11-year-old girl named Yelena. She was very, very pretty, with long black hair and large eyes. And when I met her in the street, I wanted very badly to touch her. So I lured her to a small hut I was renting nearby. During the short walk there, I could feel my heart pounding, and breathing became difficult. It was the most exciting moment of my life. I fell upon her as soon as we were through the door. I put my hand over her mouth, and I tried to get inside her, but I could not perform. I could not do what I wanted so badly to do. When her mouth broke loose from my hand for a moment, she screamed, and she stared at me in terror with those dark eyes, and I became enraged. And I put my hand over her eyes, and I plunged into her with my knife, stabbing her again and again and again and again. The feeling was incredible. I had never felt so powerful, so in control. I had never felt so much like a real man. My penis was all but worthless, but my knife could penetrate where my loins could not. And the sight of blood and open flesh excited me beyond my ability to explain it. After nightfall, I threw Yelena's body into the river. And when she was found, the authorities questioned me. I told my wife that I had been working late and that no one had seen me there. And I easily convinced her to vouch for my whereabouts. And I was not seriously considered a suspect. A few days later, another man was arrested. And after quickly extracting a confession, he was convicted and executed for the crime I had committed. Like most men in power, the authorities were morons, only interested in appearances. I had not been brought to justice for the evil I had done. My feelings of guilt were immense, and I resisted temptation by reliving the experience in my mind for nearly 4 years, until I became overwhelmed with my desire and my belief that I was somehow being granted permission by God to do these things. From then on, I killed infrequently, sometimes as much as 4 times a month, other times waiting as much as 6 months in between. When I was finally captured, 12 years after I had begun, I confessed without waiting for them to extract it from me. They had me lead them to sites where I had committed some of my crimes, and they laid mannequins in front of me and asked me to reenact the attacks with plastic and wooden knives. I did as they asked, not because I wanted to help them, but because I had hoped that by doing so, it would help me to relive the feelings of the actual killings. I wanted to have that power again. But I did not. Having people watching me took all the enjoyment out of it. It was as exciting as eating an imaginary meal, something I had been instructed to do as a child starving in the Ukraine. And they were also most curious as to why I had blindfolded or stabbed at the eyes of some of my early victims. This was because I had heard that the image of the murderer remains imprinted on the eyes of the victim. I later came to believe this was an old wives' tale, and I stopped wounding the eyes. Another number, please.
14.
14? Хорошо. Хорошо. Ironia. Irony, I believe you call it. Alexei, a boy. 10 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes, lovely. But a beggar and a thief. I saw him steal money from another beggar the day before I killed him. Well, it is true that most of my victims were girls and women. I occasionally led boys and young men into the woods as well. I would fantasize it. I was a soldier during the war, and I'd captured a Nazi. I would then torture and mutilate and sodomize them, as I had read books about such things when I was younger. It gave me an immense feeling of power and importance, as if I really were in the military service, committing murder under the sanction of my country. During all these years of killing, I was continuing as best I could to lead a normal life with my family, to be a husband, father, and grandfather. But my needs were growing in spite of my age, and I somehow sensed the end was coming soon. One evening, I was questioned briefly by an officer while coming out of the woods near the train station after torturing and stabbing a young man. Number 56. There was blood on my face and on my coat, but I convinced the officer they were my own. And like a fool, he let me go. Unfortunately, he did not forget me or my name, and I was not surprised when, a few weeks later, officers surrounded me on a street near my apartment. And now, I'm in this cage they had built to protect me from the families of the victims as much as to protect them from me. I still love my own family as much as I can. And I am sorry for all the grief my actions have caused them and will continue to cause them for some time to come. But as for everybody else, I despise them. The judge, the prosecutors, and my own attorney. They do not understand me or care to. I have tried to convince them that I am insane. But their doctors say that I am not. That I could have stopped at any time. They are so anxious to see me executed that they do not care about the truth. But what does anybody really know about the truth, eh? You may wonder, why did I kill all these people that I did not even know and who had never done anything to me? Whatever I answer you, the truth will remain a mystery. Perhaps I am a monster, as they say. Or perhaps the world itself is the monster, and I am merely the claw of the beast. You are lucky. Lucky to live in America. Lucky to have friends and family and not to have suffered as we did in Russia. Lucky to be alive. Count your blessings. They will not last.